I think we are live. And by live, I mean I am but a black square or rectangle, as the case may be. Having a problem with the camera today, so you're just going to get the voice of me. But let's see. I think just the camera is not cooperating. So you're gonna get the letter of me and the voice of me. But here we are back finally for a bit more on this red Skelly Moonbird commission. You may hear a little instrumental Zelda music in the background, which I have been unabashedly addicted to Tears of the Kingdom in every moment that I can allow myself to play it while I'm not working on other stuff, which is not nearly as much as I would like it to be. But since you can't see me, this is Evan Matthews, co-founder of Macroverse, and yes, this is session 4, working on this Red Skelly Moonbird commission for Red Skelly Captain. Also, shout out to Colin for the wonderful Face the Dread video today. Weirdly, I have a little miniature version of Facing the Dread every time I come to work on an illustration. Even though this is stuff that I've been doing for decades, there's always a moment of, am I still going to be able to do this? Am I going to make it come together? Is it going to work out? Whether it's drawing, writing, producing, any of the things that I've done quite a lot of, there's always a moment of, that question. And then I think what I have learned over the years is that the way I deal with that is just, you have the experience, and then you take the next step and do the thing anyway. And basically you find out that you don't die and then you just keep going. I think the quicker we get to being able to do that, at least for me, the less of an impact that has. And in some cases, it's almost not noticeable at this point, even though it is absolutely still there. But here we are, facing the dread together with this Red Skelly Captain, without video. Where we last left off last time on Red Skelly Captain Commission Part 3, we left off with getting the initial kind of shadow, just a little bit of shadow indication in here. I think what I'm going to do this time is actually go ahead and get the highlight, kind of some of the highlights in here, so we can start to see kind of an indication of light and shadow. And to that end, I'm going to make a new layer. And I'm going to start with eyedroppering. Actually, am I going to do that? I think I'm not, actually. What I'm going to do is grab a color from the color picker, this orange, and then we're going to go quite a bit more yellow, to a brighter yellow. And then I'm going to choose a texture for this. So I often like to go with one of the line textures. I think we'll go vertical this time. I'm going to bring the texture density down a bit. Actually, no, not the texture density, the scale ratio down a bit. And perhaps even a little bit more, something like that. And I'm going with something that's not fully, again, sort of like we did on the shadow side. The shadow side is, if we look closely, its dots are not very close together, so it's kind of subtle, but creates a little bit of depth. We're going to do the opposite now on the light side, pulling out highlights and then building up from there. So I'm going to go a little tighter in here, and I'm going to do this separately for the hat layers than for the Skelly layers, so that I have control over the again, sort of the level of level, the effect or the color we may kind of modify based on it being on the hat versus being on the bird. So this is not going to be everything, but this is actually going to be a little more aggressive with this. Is not like the hots or the brightest highlights. So I'm going to be a little more aggressive with how much light are we actually getting here. And then again, you'll see as I continue to work this through that the brightest highlights will kind of emerge in a later stage. So I'm just going to start bringing some light in. This is not going to stay yellow for sure, but it will start to indicate even more of the form of what we have going on here. I'm also going to keep the highlight on the braid on the cap separate as well. So let's see. Hopefully you're a Zelda fan and don't mind a bunch of different interpretations of the Zelda theme as we work on this. I've actually got an incredible soundtrack. Maybe I'll do this for the next session. I've got an incredible soundtrack of a time when the kind of full orchestra did a whole Nintendo themed event in Japan, and it's pretty amazing. If you've ever heard of or seen John Williams at the Hollywood Bowl, it's kind of the equivalent of that, but for all Nintendo themes. It's pretty fantastic. All right, so I'm gonna start to play with like what effect might we want in here, and don't want it to really appear like a hard yellow like this. We want it to start to find something that kind of feels like it could be light. So probably something that's kind of more in this range. And so you see, like, one of the things I like about using blending modes is you can kind of think about a particular color, like in this case, yellow is going to interact with red differently than it does with gray, than it does with white, but you're still kind of using the same base color. So it does help to kind of unify things and bring things together, even when they are going to appear quite differently as they come together. So I think for this, where we're at right now, somewhere in here, it's probably pretty good. Not 100% sold, but that's the right color. Yeah, it might just be brightness. And so you can see like that completely changes it, where so you lose the yellow. But I don't want to just go to that, because I might as well have used just a lighter gray. So I do want to bring some of this color in there, and it'll help when we start to get it into everything. So for now, I'm going to go with that. So that's the hat. Make a new layer for the tassel and the orange parts. And for now, this is probably going to be a little bit subtle, but it'll play out as we go. Hope you're enjoying the black square that is my portrait in this video today. It's brought to you by a technical malfunction. I am an early adopter. That shouldn't be a surprise, being in the space that we're all in. I'm sure many of us are. And how that manifests in one way for me is I am almost always running beta software on my devices. Also a developer, or not a coder, but someone that creates products for apps and games and things. So almost always running beta software, almost always testing things on my devices, and running the beta of iOS 17, I think has had some consequences in the form of some of the things like video showing up at times. It's one of the things you got to kind of sign up for if you're going to take the plunge and do those things. So not always my favorite when it comes to something like this where I want to be able to say hi. I had a meeting with a writer earlier today who I'm really hoping that we get to do something with, and also had to apologize for, the first time we're meeting being unable to come on video. Okay, so that's going to be the orange part. And I'm going to find something that's not just completely straight, the color on top. I'm going to give it some kind of interaction with the color that it's connected to. So I think in that case that will work. And then when we punch out some even brighter highlights, it'll help. Okay, and then going on to another layer, save. And then this will be starting to be some of the brightest parts of the hat, the white part of the hat. And in order to really see that, I'm going to need to get it kind of popping a little bit more. So a bit like that. So you can see we're still kind of in subtle, kind of in more of a subtle mode at the moment, but that's all right. It's kind of what I want to be. Not kind of. It is where I want to be. Oh, hold on a second. Hold on, somebody is knocking on my office door, so I'll be right back. And we're back. All right. So, again, just kind of getting the beginnings of light and shadow in here. Sometimes I'm more aggressive and kind of go right to, kind of more dramatic lighting, and kind of think maybe that would have been good here, but also just gives me a clear indication of kind of what I'm doing and where the light source is and how to kind of build up to that more dramatic lighting that we're going to do on this guy. All right, and so now from here, ready to go to the red parts, and we'll get a new layer here. That's all hat shadow hat. So I'm going to let all the hat stuff be there, and then to a layer down here in the layer stack for burb stuff. All right. And so again, this won't be like the brightest highlights, but it'll start to give us the form of light and shadow here. And for this as well, I'm going to go ahead and kind of find the blending mode that I want. You can see sometimes you'll find, something in this process. It's like, oh, that would be good for something else. So maybe I'll come back to it later, or just that particular effect. Like that's kind of cool. It's very subtle, very bright red. I don't think we actually want to go to that for this, but it's kind of cool. All right, then bringing down the opacity here, kind of somewhere in there. Seems pretty good. All right. Okay, so this is going to be all head, and I want to really keep in mind that our light source is upper right, so the brim of the hat we're kind of seeing is hitting a lot of this, and then we want to kind of keep that idea very much in play. So I'm going to pull out a couple of areas in here more for the sake of the dimensionality of it. The actual kind of light I want to make sure is very much respecting that idea of the brim of the hat. And so as this continues, we'll kind of carve that out even more here. Really getting that shape of the hat brim, I think, is going to really make for a cool effect when we start to see how that comes together. So again, I said this in previous videos, but this is what I love about this technique so much, is that you get this kind of really cool kind of interaction of the textures when we get up close. Again, this sort of concept of old printing techniques and different ways of creating areas of color and interaction between color. And then when you go small, it all kind of just comes together and feels like you're rendering something that's much more dimensional and realized, but it's just made up of all these cool textures and overlays. It's just something I really like about doing it this way. All right. So let's keep going. So I'm also kind of pulling out some of the little highlight areas that are not going to get hit with a brighter highlight later, which will kind of just start to become part of the more subtle part of shading this in or rendering this. there we go for the head. So you can see it's subtle, but it starts to pull that out. So I think we'll actually bump this up just a little bit more. Yeah, to get a little more lighting, but you can start to see how this is gonna feel. And I think it feels pretty good. All right. So that's our head. And yeah, I did do all that on one layer, so I'll just continue that with the lighting. There's really no reason in this case to do these separate areas for head versus shoulder versus spine or anything like that in this particular case. So, all right, we'll go on to the other things that are kind of the closest to us. So, starting here, in fact, this part of his sternum actually has less keeping it out of the light than his face even does. So that's going to be something I may just cheat on a little bit because I probably want the focus to largely be on his face. But in reality, like this sternum area might be part of the brightest section if we were seeing this in a real environment or a real lighting situation. But I think we can probably get away with letting the beak and some parts of the face be the brightest, even though that's the case. Although, if you do look at the original, actually that kind of hottest highlight, one of the hottest highlights is right there on that sternum. So kind of thinking along those same lines. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes as we get there. Right, something like that. And then kind of the same, working our way down the ribs here, where the top area of this is going to be catching the most amount of light. Just picking out a couple little spots to kind of just help separate things and make the texture of the bones a little more evident. Again, knowing this is not our hottest highlight by any means. Yeah, he's looking pretty good. Hopefully everyone who is watching or comes to watch this later will have a wonderful weekend. I, for one, am taking my daughter, who is just turning 10, has just turned 10 actually, taking her to see the number one movie that she wants to see right now, which is the Teenage Kraken movie. So we'll have a conversation about how that is potentially, but I actually do quite like the look of the style of it, I must say. We also saw Elemental, which I quite enjoyed, more than I thought I might, considering some of the reviews. And I've always been a big Pixar fan, but I have to say, I feel like Pixar is kind of falling stylistically behind a bit at the moment. So I'm curious how that may change as they've been struggling a little more at the box office, in that things like Spider-Verse and even the look of Teenage Kraken, even the Mario movie has some unique stylistic approaches to how they're just what the animation looks like, what the world looks like. And what was interesting in Elemental is like they definitely played with kind of the rendering for the different elements, especially fire had a little bit more of a illustrative kind of vibe to the way that they did some of the fire effects, which I really liked, and I think it's kind of a little different for the kind of Pixar look that we've become so accustomed to. But then the rest of the film, the rest of the world, is still kind of rendered in that hyper real, kind of CG, feeling. And so, it's not that it didn't work; it definitely worked. But I think we're just seeing some real creative experimentation happening in other parts of the animation industry, and sadly, I think Pixar's fallen behind there a little bit. And I hope that we see some experiments from them to start to play again, to start to redefine the quote unquote kind of Pixar look. So I think it's something that has become just less fresh, less interesting, less innovative, and partly because we've seen it for 15 years. It was amazing when they first did it, but now we're kind of used to it. It's almost like the default for what a 3D animated movie looks like. And now you've got stuff like Spider-Verse, which is really pushing the envelope, and makes that stuff kind of just feel, it's fine, seen it, been there, done that, and hope they can find their way to kind of the next golden age of Pixar, because I do think they certainly have the history and the talent, but need some fresh approaches and some fresh ideas, I think. You start to see like when the overlap of some of what we put down for the shadow and now what we're kind of getting in here for some of these highlights, that starts to feel really good to me. Like that creates some of that effect that I'm looking for. Get a whole lot of light down here in the rib cage, but just a little bit will help. Again, sort of, we want to make sure it doesn't feel flat. It's really the main thing. So we'll tackle that in a couple different ways as this develops, but that will be one of them. Just pulling out a couple little places where a little light might get in there just a little bit. All right. And then on to the shoulders. And this is going to be like, quite a bit of light actually going to be hitting here. As I'm hearing this particular Zelda theme, it sounds a bit Harry Potter-ish to me, which I'd never put together before, but it feels like there's some similarity in this theme a little bit. Be cool to find out that John Williams is a massive Zelda fan, which wouldn't be that surprising because really, who isn't? I'm sure you're out there, but come on. Okay. I'm pretty good about this. All right. So, you know what's so helpful about that is it does help me now kind of see much more of the form. And so now it becomes sort of a function of just working darker into the shadows, lighter into the lights, continuing to clarify that dimensionality, that rendering, choosing textures, and just kind of continuing to build it up. This part of it weirdly kind of feels a little bit like sculpting to me. Like I'm finding the shapes that create the dimensionality for this figure, for this thing that's kind of being rendered into something that feels pretty dimensional. Let's just keep going a little bit. I think we are going to see, actually, we will definitely see a little bit of light getting into these eye sockets, just a little. And again, that's something we'll do both with putting a little bit of this in there, but also as we get a little more shadow as well. It's not going to be extreme by any means, because we do want to keep that feeling of these really being these kind of sunken eye holes, but just a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna maybe go back and forth here. Now I'm gonna go back to the shadow side, and that's kind of cool too. Like you can often tell it's working when you can turn off the shadow and get the dimensionality of the light, and then you can turn off the light and still see the dimensionality of the shadow. So you're working pretty well. Okay. I want to do one thing on the brim of the hat. I'm not 100% satisfied with that angle up here. So just want to adjust that so that it feels like it's more in line with the rest of the shadow area there. Yeah, more like that. Okay. That does it for me. So, I'm going to go back to the dark side. So, this time, I'm going to not start with the hat. I'm going to just keep working on the bird at the moment. And I'll probably do that for the rest of this session, just try to make a bunch of progress on the Skelly. So, now we're going to go back to the shadow, bring the new layer in here. And if you remember, we're using this background color as our shadow color. And I'm going to continue to do that. And I'm going to go back to a dot pattern for this. And something that's a little darker, a little closer together. Kind of a step up from where we were before. Let's see. I think maybe in here I need to bring that that texture density down quite a bit. Nope, that's the wrong one. Scale ratio is what I'm looking for. Yeah, something in there. Maybe not quite so fine. I want to start to be able to see a little more of the dots, I think. Maybe even a little up from there. Well, even a little more up from there. Let's try 50. Okay, yeah, something like that. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it green for the moment. And you're pretty much always going to start with the beak. So that's the part that's kind of both the darkest and the lightest. Pretty much going to start there with just about every pass. And you can already see what's cool here is that these two patterns overlaying with each other creates a new pattern. So again, it both gives the effect of being darker, but also creates this very interesting, cool new texture as they interact with each other. And we're going to pick a color treatment for this as well, not just going straight full bore, but maybe something like this. And so you get the texture interaction, the color interaction. It just creates a much more interesting detail when you get in to look at how this thing is put together. And maybe some hard light. That feels pretty good. So start with that anyway. Too much. And so now we're going to start to really get into some of the darkest areas here as well. Be a little more aggressive with how we shade some of this. And it won't necessarily be immediately apparent everywhere, but it will start to really have an impact with how we see this as it continues and also as we zoom out to see the cumulative effect of this. So even there, you can see how much darker that eye is compared to the other one, but not for long. And I'm still carving out little bits of the original, the previous version of the shadow that we had in there. Still carving out little bits that will help to continue to just make this a little more dimensional, a little more textured, a little bit more bony. And also I'm going to put in a couple of extra details here as well. So again, it's subtle, but it starts to really make a difference with where the darkest areas are. Now we're going straight for the shadow under the hat. And starting to see that, kind of get in there now with just helping to render out more depth. And now I do have to also start making some choices as to where are truly the darkest areas that need this level of treatment. Kind of see this on the flip side as well, as to starting to pick out the true kind of most deep shadowed areas and the most lit areas, and how those two things are treated. Okay, we've lost our Zelda, so you know what? I'm going to pause for just a second and treat you all, or anyone who decides to listen, to what I was talking about. Let's find this Nintendo soundtrack. This one is not available on iTunes or Spotify, as far as I know. It is one that I have digitized that I've had for quite a long time. So let's first of all make sure I can actually find it, but it should be here if I can remember what it's called. Let's see. I'm gonna have to search in my library for just a second, so just stand by. It's going to be worth it, I think. Let's see. Because it's not called Nintendo and it's not called Mario. It's called something else. Here we go. Oh, I'm also searching in the wrong place. So that would be a reason why. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, man. You know what? I might have to do something to turn on that sync. Well, since the camera's not working, I'm pretty sure it's on my phone. It probably just isn't synced to my computer at the moment. So let me double check that. And I can just AirPlay it if I'm right about that. Let's see. I want to be able to tell you the name of it as well. Yep. Okay, so here it is, going to the album. So this is called Mario and Zelda Big Band Live CD, and I'll start with the opening. It's really wonderful, so I hope you enjoy this as much as I do. This is a live recording from Japan. Put it onto the office speakers here just a second. And see if you enjoy this as much as I do. If Nintendo is a part of your life in the way that it has been mine, you probably will. All right, back to the Skelly. Whoa. Honestly, this one just makes me happy. The drawing, but the music as well, just makes me happy. It's a good way to fight off the dread, is find some music or something that just can't help but put you in a good mood. be pretty good for the head, like that. Okay. So I may want to move this on top of the, yeah, I do want to actually move it on top of the highlights. So good. Pushes that back in the space while the lightest parts come forward. It's working pretty well. So good. Thank you for joining me for the Nintendo Music Hour, along with a little drawing. It's like that is what this one is going to be. Alright, I'm liking it. I'm liking it. Okay. Oh, we got another arm. Okay, I think that does the skeleton part. So now we'll turn our attention back to the hat, I think. I'm going to at least get somewhere in there now that we've got that in. Let me find my shadow layer. Go over the top of this one as well. Okay. I mean, come on, this scat version of Mario is just too much fun. I mean, I think the dreads really got you if this isn't making you happy. I don't know what else to say. Do something similar. That part. Yep, I'm listening. could be that the same as what was on the hat. So I guess we'll follow that through probably. It's just going to be that for that. Now, for now, just that little bit of extra darkness there. All right. Now, let's keep going along these lines and go back to the Skelly with one more bit of darkening. Another layer. And this time I'm gonna switch it up, I think. So let's see if we go to the line going the other way. Potentially. Let's see. Yeah, this way. Darkest yet. And to start with again, I'm going to go with the beak. How cool that is. Like the lines combined with the dots, it just again makes this very cool effect for how we render. Somewhere in here. Okay, and again, kind of now working from the darkest areas to the lightest areas. Continue to bring the dark stuff back and the light stuff forward. really pops. All right, he's looking good. This is the stage where I start to defeat the dread because I start to see it and go like, yeah, I like this. That's the flip side for me. It starts out with the dread, it ends up with the like, yeah, I'm good. I don't know what we call that. It's the mythic part. Let's call it the mythic part. So that's a good example of going too dark on that arm. So I'm not going to have that much in shadow over there. Some of it, yes, but not all those little crags. It's too much light going to be in there. So backing that off a little bit. Okay. Pretty good. Pretty good, I think. Pretty good. Okay. Let's see. Oh, hey. Rommel and Lady Valor have joined the chat. How are you guys doing? If you missed the beginning, I have no camera tonight, so you just got my voice and this black rectangle. But that's all right, because we're focused on this Skelly. All right, we're pretty close to as dark as we're going to go here in most of this. Might get a little tiny bit in just the very, very, very darkest areas, but pretty close to it. I think it's time to kind of shift gears a little bit. Might get a little darker in a couple hat areas, but I think the hat's going to need a little more work. I'm not as satisfied with that as I am with the Skelly in general. So, continue to work on that a little bit. So let's just stay focused on the Skelly. I think it's time to switch now to a little more of the light side, so to speak. And we'll go to a new layer here. Go back to kind of a bright yellow. I'm not going to worry about eyedropping it as much. I'm going to make this a little lighter, actually. Give us a little more leeway. And I'm going to do the opposite now. I'm going to go to a dot pattern on top of the lines that we did previously. So let's see how something like this feels. Make this scale a little bit further, a little smaller, not quite as small as we did previously, but yeah, something like that. Okay, so I'm going to stay focused on our Skelly for the moment, and as I have been, starting again with the beak, popping that out. And brush size a little smaller. We'll give this the screen probably something like that. Drop the opacity a little bit. This is again not meant to be quite our hottest hot just yet, but probably pretty close to it. There aren't that many kind of really bright areas in here. They're going to be any more than this. Maybe something along those lines. Yeah, so actually I feel like that's already too bright. I'm going to want to bring that down a little bit, which might be a different blending mode. It's too much. Oh, definitely not. So I'm just going to kind of go through them again until I find more of what I think this needs to be. Don't want it to be quite so bright just yet. But I still want you to be able to differentiate it and see it on top of the highlights which are already there. So maybe it's going to be just a matter of really not going crazy with the opacity just yet. So it's definitely lighter than the other, but not all the way. Yeah, I think it's going to be that. All right, we'll do that for now. Yeah, something like that. Okay, we're getting there. Kind of like massaging it back and forth to get like highlights, shadows. Sometimes that's how it comes, how it goes. That's going pretty good to me. I think we're pretty close on the skeleton part. Now I think I probably do want to dive in with a few the hottest, kind of brightest areas, but it's feeling pretty cohesive at the moment. So let's go one more layer. And this time we're going to go back to the lines. Let's see. There's my line shader. Here we go. And going pretty bright this time. So it's really going to be the brightest part. Just kind of highlights, less rendering. Still gonna adjust the blending mode and the opacity a little bit. Let's try that. Actually, don't want to hit this quite as hard. Yep, definitely better. I want that beak to pop out, I want the eye sockets to pop out to create more contrast there. Come on, how cool would it be to be at this live show for orchestral Nintendo music? So cool. Keep that more subtle. Okay. I think we're pretty close to done on the skeleton part. I feel like I may have hit these ribs just a little too hard. Might bring that down just a little bit here. Let's go back in with the eraser a little bit just to get cut down on these highlights just a touch compared to this face. It feels a little too bright. Better, definitely better. All right, feeling pretty good about that. So we may revisit any of that a little bit later, but feeling pretty good about that. So, all right, I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna turn down the big band Nintendo music. I challenge you to go and find this. Never found it on a streaming service. It's the big band of Rogues. Doing a whole suite of classic Nintendo, everything from Mario to Zelda to Mario Party, Mario Kart, all kinds of fun stuff, including some obscure Nintendo titles, but just tons of fun. I love it. And with that, this is going to wrap up session 4 of the Red Skelly Captain. I think there's probably one more, so I'll probably pick out a couple of last little bits on the skeleton, wrap up the hat, do the background, and then we'll pretty much be there. So I think there's probably one more, probably hour-long-ish session to wrap this guy up. But yeah, pretty happy with how he's coming out. So I hope this silent drawing with music episode where I can't get my camera to work is enjoyable as well. But I'll be back. Lots more to come. check out what we're doing at Macroverse if you aren't already. The next few weeks into the next few months are going to be pretty fantastically interesting, with a lot of things that we've been working on finally seeing the light of day. So do keep an eye out, and I'll be back soon.